the mood around Davos this week is perhaps a return to normality. And now, the moment perhaps arrives where politicians need to grasp some of these very difficult structural problems on competitiveness. So my first question is, actually, isn't it more difficult now that the crisis, the worst of the crisis, seems over, for political leaders to take those difficult decisions?
It's true that the work is far from completed. We are not saying we are out of the crisis. We have turned the corner, but we cannot say we are out of the crisis with such high levels of unemployment. And so that's why we need to keep the momentum on the reforms, namely to fight with success these unacceptable levels of unemployment. From a political point of view, yes, it may be sometimes a temptation to sit back and relax, but that's why we believe the public opinion, or at least informed public opinion, the European institutions, the international organizations, should keep the pressure not to give up on the reforms, not to come back to business as usual, because in fact business as usual will not be possible, because we have to address in Europe some of problems of competitiveness, being clear that we have not, as some people suggest, an overall problem of competitiveness in Europe. We have some specific problems of competitiveness. In fact, if you look at aggregated figures of Europe and the Eurozone, we are keeping basically the share of global trade we had 20 years ago. Some countries went down very much, others went up with a great success, while in the international scene, of course, we had China being the big winner and others losing some part of their position. So that's why now we have to focus on competitiveness, and that we should do by deepening the internal market. External trade, that's why I am pursuing a very offensive external trade agenda, from the successful conclusion of agreements with South Korea to Singapore, now to Canada. Just some weeks ago, Prime Minister Harper came to Brussels and finalized it. And now opening negotiations with Japan, and the very important transatlantic trade and investment partnership with the United States that will have a real transformative power for world economy. If we conclude it, I believe we can do it.
Do you believe that the anti-immigration parties will do very well in the European elections?
I think they will have a better result than in the past, clearly, and that's a challenge and a danger. That's why I'm calling mainstream parties to leave the comfort zone and to speak up for Europe, and to explain, as Prime Minister Reinfeldt just said, why we cannot give up on freedom of movement in Europe. That's one of the greatest achievements. But while I expect those nationalistic, sometimes xenophobic parties to come up, I think they will not reach mass where they will become really a problem in terms of decisions in the European Parliament, so they will not be able to block legislation. I think it's good that we give up the idea that we can do European integration by implicit consent. We have to win that debate, and that's why I've been calling the mainstream political parties, from the center-left to the center-right to the center itself, to come and explain, because, of course, Europe cannot be done only by Brussels. Europe is a collective effort at all levels of leadership, and also with our citizens.